G'day, my name is Shawler and I'm a creative who paints and writes fiction. I invite you to experience this soul-deep painting and immerse yourself in contemplating beauty while hearing the story behind it and while viewing the painting. Soul Deep is my free gift to you. I often experiment with how I start a painting. Sometimes it's a new to me medium, like fluorescent paint or jelly plates, just to get rid of the blank canvas. Or I will set an intention, or I process my emotions or deal with a confronting issue with no plan prepared. In this painting, I wanted to see what it would be like to paint in response to a community discussion on the divine feminine. During that time, I intuitively reached for colour, shape, and symbol. This hour-plus long conversation took place within a contemplative community of women called the Lighthouse. I cannot share what I heard and saw, but what I can do is chat with Sandra Logan, the speaker at that time, and so you can learn about the divine feminine as the painting unfolds in front of you. Enjoy. I filmed this vertically instead of horizontally, as this whole idea was an experiment, and I wasn't thinking ahead to Soul Deep. How could I? This project was but a tiny fledgling of an idea in December 2020, when this was filmed. So who is Sandra Logan? Aside from a dear friend and companion of mine in the Lighthouse, Sandra Logan draws on 3 careers and 4 decades of working with girls and women as an educator, psychotherapist, and spiritual director. She has experienced the divine feminine for most of her life, beginning in childhood. It is her hope that women seeking their unique expression of divine feminine will find guidance and encouragement through conversations like the one we're about to have as they grow into their personal wholeness and make their way in the world. So, Sandra, how did you first encounter the divine feminine?
Well, I feel like I encountered her very young, maybe even when I was 4 or whenever I was aware enough to know and experience the kindness and the love that my grandmother was just showering on me. I was so lucky to have her in my life at the time that I did. And I just adored her. I would write her love notes and leave them on the end of her bed. And looking back on it now, I realized that she was my first love. But she died. She died when I was 9. And that left a huge well of sadness inside of me. And I, of course, tried to fill that well of sadness. And I turned to nature. I climbed trees and sat out there and watched people walk by underneath me. And I loved my little beagle dogs and petted them, and they loved me back. And that was very comforting. And at night, as a child, I would pour my heart out in prayer. And looking back on that, I feel like that was probably me trying to reach my grandmother. And then as a teenager, I turned to the beauty and the discipline of ballet. Now I say all of these things just to show how many ways that there are so many ways toward the divine feminine to be in our lives. She started out for me as a person, and then went to nature and animals and spirit and beauty. And I imagine that your listeners can think of many ways that she's in their lives now.
And we'll be asking them that question a little later. What ways the divine feminine is with them. So ballet for you is
Great.
the divine feminine through the beauty and like the discipline and the strength that the ballerina has.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The beauty of it. Yeah.
So when you did the first glow up in the lighthouse, which is when this painting was created, there were a few quotes you said that really resonated. So would you say a bit more about each of these?
Mhm.
She is a lived experience.
Yes, yes. I use that phrase. That the divine feminine is a lived experience because her qualities are aspects that cannot be analyzed or measured. They are attributes that need to be experienced. And some of those attributes are compassion, experiencing compassion, and being nurtured, being included, experiencing justice for yourself and others, experiencing beauty, and cherishing or being loved. And these are the high values of the archetypal feminine. But I want to hasten to say that these qualities are in each of us. It doesn't matter what gender we are, they're in all of us. These are high values of the divine feminine, but they're more than just virtues, actually. They are positive energies that need to be expressed in the world, because the experience of these positive energies are what make life meaningful and vital and alive. Well, let's just think about it a second. What a difference it makes to experience being cherished rather than being abandoned. What a difference it makes to a person to be nurtured or helped to grow rather than being neglected. And what a good thing it is for a person's well-being to be included rather than ostracized. And we could keep on going down the list. But the point is that these positive energies of the divine feminine make a life-changing difference in a person's life. So I hope you can see why I say that the divine feminine is a lived experience. And I would sum it up by saying that the divine feminine becomes a lived experience in us when we feel compassion, when we experience justice, when we're stopped in our tracks in wonder by love or beauty, and when we allow healing through being included or cherished.
Thank you. That was beautiful, and it says so much about the divine feminine versus, say, the divine masculine, which we've so many of us learn as a far away God as a child, and then the God grows closer as we get older, of course, but and our theology develops. But it was wonderful to hear that about the divine feminine, like being in our hearts to begin with, too. So
Yes, yes, exactly. And just to be able to recognize and experience that that's what it is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So let's take a minute here and take a look and see what's been happening in this painting you've been watching unfold as we listen to myself talk with Sandra. I found that in painting her, while listening to all her loving attributes, I too experienced the divine feminine. The spiral/labyrinth has returned as a common symbol in this work, as well as wavy feminine lines. And then from yellow and gold to blue and rich purple, and much later some magenta scribbles, I used watercolors, mermaid markers, which are watercolor markers, and gold and white acrylic paint. You will see me shortly add pink wings for love and nourishment to bring her sheltering aspect to the forefront. And the initial figure has been almost obliterated by my marks representing the divine feminine. And so I start to bring that initial figure back, which is inspired by a small statuette I own. And then at the end, I add a halo for divinity, but it took a while to get it to a place where I was satisfied with it. Now back to the conversation. So here's another quote. She wants to be expressed in your own unique way of expressing her. Now, for me, that's making art and writing words. But what is your unique way of expressing her, and what might some other examples be?
So just as we each have different abilities, we each have different ways of expressing her. But how do we know what is our own way of expressing the divine feminine? So, first of all, I would suggest that you cultivate awareness of what gives you joy and what you long to express in the world. And then name your values. What are your guideposts for your path? And then take stock of what your gifts and abilities are. And figuring out that important information can help you create your own unique way of expressing the goodness of the divine feminine. And I know it is art, making art for you, and making the beautiful soul deep classes that we have the privilege of attending. Through my life, I've become aware that learning is a passion for me, that it gives me so much enjoyment, and that nurturing is one of my gifts. And so in the beginning of my life, when I was a young adult, I think I just put those two things together unconsciously and realized that I enjoy teaching. That's a form of loving. And I love children. And so that just worked naturally even without realizing what I was doing. And then later I went back to the university to learn more and get my degrees. And I became a counselor of abused women. And now I think I'm still doing it, even though I'm retired and not really working. But I'm offering retreats sometimes and writing blogs sometimes, in which I encourage women to be aware and proud of the voice of the divine feminine in themselves. And that's what I'm really encouraging today, too. But there are many ways of expressing the divine feminine. Working for justice is a very important way. Caring for the earth and getting involved in climate change, creating beauty, helping a nonprofit make an attractive logo would be a gift of spirit of the divine feminine. Creating meaningful art like you do, nurturing children and including the stranger or those who are downtrodden and left out. These are ways of bringing the divine feminine into the moment. But the bottom line is, whatever your abilities are and whatever you are given to do that brings you joy, that is how you bring her presence into the world in your own unique way.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Sandra. So this next quote, I think you said a lot in the glow up, and so I've just like kind of summarized it or squeezed the quote down a bit. So you said, the divine feminine weaves the bits of your life into a beautiful whole basket, weaving all of the things together in a sacred container. And I love this idea of being made whole by the divine feminine. It's very non-judgmental. And I think this hints to what you've already answered in that it weaves together our values and our gifts, as well as our lived lives, right? Could you say some more about that?
Yes, that is a marvelous observation. I like that. Love that interpretation. And absolutely, we are. It is non-judgmental for the divine feminine. She is the way. Her way is forgiveness and love and healing and transformation, not judgment. And she does encourage us to live and include all the parts of our lives. And then she will, even the dark parts, the hard parts, the sad parts, she will help us as we work with her and learn with her and get closer to her. She will help us transform maybe the dark energies of it into more positive energies of it, into something strong and useful. But I got that idea, if you'll indulge me with this, about weaving your life whole and by using just the ordinary strands of your life. When I saw artisan women weaving sweet grass baskets out of coarse bulrushes and stiff palmetto strands and brittle pine needles, and I just couldn't even believe that they were able to weave them into something beautiful, as they do all the time. And I was just enchanted. And I was sure that if I looked deeply enough, I would see the divine feminine sitting there weaving the ordinary grass beneath our feet material of our lives into a meaningful and beautiful creation.
I'm jumping into this conversation again because Sandra's about to treat us to a guided meditation. So let's just take one breath together. Breathe it out, and let's listen and use our imaginations.
And maybe for a moment, you and I and your listeners could use our sacred imagination and see the divine feminine sitting there in front of us, weaving the basket of our life with its bulrushes and its palmetto strands, and then decorating it with the beautiful wildflowers and shells and feathers from her sacred earth to make our life basket beautiful. And of course, she would want to strengthen it. So I can imagine her packing it with sod, the mud, the darkness of our life, the hard parts, and the seed of our life, the possibilities of us to make it strong. And I'm sure she would shine it and bless it with her love. And then she would hand it to us, that sacred life basket of ours, and encourage us to tilt it and pour it out, our one of a kind spirit, onto the world. And I also believe she would tell us, don't throw away the bulrushes and the sod parts of your life. Those can strengthen the weaving of your life and can deepen what you offer the world.
Tell us a little bit about Mary Magdalene.
Mary Magdalene has been an icon of the divine feminine for me. We have experienced Mary Magdalene as a breeze of hope and goodness in the world. Cynthia Bourgeois, and who called Mary Magdalene a breeze of gentleness, forgiveness, and the vibration of love. And Bourgeois goes on to say that that Mary Magdalene's presence is needed whenever there is a need for an infusion of love in the world. Mary Magdalene shows up. And there is certainly a need now. And concurrently, there is a rising interest in Mary Magdalene. But her story has been muddled and veiled, and she has been driven out of the place that she once held in the early church. And as a result, we have lost her wisdom and her guidance for 1,400 years. But she is reintroducing herself, and I think that is happening because she has much to teach us about transforming our lives into wholeness and experiencing love as a spiritual guide.
So thank you, Sandra, for coming along and being my first interview in the Soul Deep experience. So I really appreciate you being my volunteer in a sense, and I look forward to seeing you around in the lighthouse. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, you made it so fun. Thank you so much, Leanne.
Thanks.
I'm happy. Okay, bye-bye.
Sandra said that Sophia, the divine feminine, weaves the bits of your life into a beautiful whole basket, weaving all the things together into a sacred container. As we enter into this meditation part of the video, consider the aspects of the divine feminine in your life. How has she shown up for you? What does your beautiful whole life look like as a basket that she and you weave together? Where do you find the divine feminine? How does she help you find your wisdom? And how do you express the divine feminine in your life? I would like you to take a few moments now to ground yourself and bring yourself into the present moment. And we're going to do that by taking just a few deep, solid breaths. So if you like to close your eyes, you may do that. Otherwise, let's get started. So we breathe in, hold it at the top, sigh it all out. Breathe in, hold it, and sigh it all out. Feel your body's weight against the couch or the chair or wherever you might be sitting. Breathe in, hold hold it at the top. Sigh it out. Just becoming present to where you are right now. What did you see? Share in the comments below. Did you find anything new? Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications when the next Soul Deep video goes live. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon on this Soul Deep journey.